Hello and welcome to the video. This is a video that I've been waiting quite a few weeks to make for you because this is about this little thing here. This is the SMO 4K action camera. It's a little bit of an interesting one because it's a collaboration between BetaFPV. You've seen I've done reviews of their quads on the channel before. That's what they tend to be known with. And the guys at Insta360. Now, the way this thing actually looks, I've got it on front, this is what I've been flying it on. It looks like that, and it's kind of like, oh, hang on a minute, it's kind of the wrong shape. This is one of the first action cameras that's actually been designed for the hobby. So rather than us having to go out and buy an expensive £400 GoPro and try and skeletonize it, invalidate the warranty, and then not be able to get any help when something goes wrong, it's absolutely brilliant to see a couple of people who get the hobby, who understand what we're trying to do as pilots and actually make something for us. Now, I've been playing with this for about 4 weeks, so I think I've had it long enough to kind of talk about what it's like and how good it is. So let me go through the standard stuff. We'll unbox it, I'll show you how to use it, talk through some of the wrinkles and kind of give you my summary at the end. So while I unbox this, let's talk about what this is. This again is a 4K action camera. It does have stabilization, not on board though, it is available through a app. It's only 30 grams in weight, I'll show you that in a minute. And it has field of view of about 120 degrees. But it will fit in all the places that a standard modern action camera will. And the image and the optics and everything are really, really nice. Now, Insta360 do know how to make some very nice little cameras. So what I was surprised when I opened this, there's a couple of backs. This is a separate back that you can replace the one that it comes on. And fantastically, there are a couple of lens covers in here, a couple of little filters. One is an ND filter, which is brilliant. This is the kind of stuff that we don't tend to get on the things made for our hobby. In addition to that, you have a little cable that goes by the side. This doesn't have a battery in it. You need to power it from the flight battery, so you can just plug that into the side. And also the extra cables that are on here allow you to control it from a flight controller. Hallelujah, somebody's actually thought about this. In terms of the setup, it is pretty straightforward. If you've already seen any videos on any of the Insta cameras, this is going to seem very, very familiar. You can download the application, put it onto your phone, connect to it over Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, and then you can access all the different settings, start and stop recording. Now, because mine was a very early unit, I've had to update the firmware a couple of times and activate it as well. And once I did that, then I was away. There's only two buttons on here. One powers it on and off, and the other one starts and stops recording. Because there is no screen on here, along with no battery, that's one of the reasons why the weight is so incredibly light. But in the application, you can very easily change the way you need to set it, although I would recommend running it on one of the 4K settings, because you need that in order to do the stabilization and the FPV stuff in the application. Now, to edit any footage that you want, that you get, you do need to import it into the Insta Studio. That's a free application you can download from their website. You can import it, and if you've got the right format of file, i.e. one of the 4K, 30 frames a second, 69 is what I've been using here, it gives you the option to have FPV as the output setting. You can enable the stabilization in here, and away you go. I was surprised, because this is my first camera from Insta360, that it wasn't already sat there as a .mov or another kind of file. So when I ejected the SD card from the side of it, plugged it into the computer, I was a bit shocked to see that it was another kind of file, and I have to import it into this to then export it into what you want. But it does give you an amazing amount of control about what you want out of the camera in terms of the fisheye effect, the lens, whether or not you want stabilization on or off, and the application works really well. The footage itself is very, very nice indeed. It looks fantastic and does a really good job of capturing all of the nuances of the scene that you're looking at. Wide dynamic range, fantastic color reproduction and contrast as well, make this feel like a really expensive camera, but all in a package that weighs only 30 grams that's running from your flight battery. So as you can tell, I am a fan. There are lots of things to like about this. First of all is the fact that it is so amazingly lightweight. This kind of performance from a 30-gram camera that can pretty much go anywhere, even on some really small kind of indoor whoop kind of models, is pretty fab. I do like the fact that they've included different backs. It is like a mini Torx screws on the back. Phillips would have probably been better for your average person, but you can take the back off and replace it. I 3D printed a little kind of support for it on the front of this particular model, but there are STL files available. I'll share the one that I did for this particular model if you're interested, but it's a pretty standard setup and it works really nicely. But because of the smaller size, it will fit in any space that has been designed for something like a GoPro without giving you all of that weight penalty. I do also like the fact that they have also set it up to work really nicely with things like Betaflight, so you can control it. However, the way that I use it here is I kind of leave it set on 4K, 30 frames a second, 16:9, and I kind of power it up and turn it on and off because I'm used to using action cameras on models like this, so that's kind of a standard part way of doing it. But I do like the fact that they have thought about the fact that you can interface it without any extra bits. Even the detail of how you do that is in the manual. There's only a couple of things that I would have liked in this. I would have liked the stabilization in the camera. Having it in the separate software does mean it gives you far more control how the final image looks when it's rendered out, but it's that additional step. Just be aware of that. You will need a reasonably beefy PC unless you want to wait for a long time. The application, when it's rendering, particularly if you're using the stabilization, does kind of think about it a bit, so you can't just kind of eject the SD card, stick it into your computer and upload it to YouTube or Instagram or whatever. There is that additional step. And the only other thing I'll comment on, getting the SD card out the side is a little bit tricky. It's kind of hidden away in there, and I tend to find that I can't get to it easily. It would have been nice to have it a bit simpler so that with the edge of a nail you can pop it in and out. This isn't waterproof by any stretch of the imagination. There's lots of open gaps in here, so there's no real penalty for having the SD card a little bit easier to get onto. But as you could probably tell from the very start of the video, I am a fan of this. I love the fact that people like Insta360, who understand the hobby, are also partnering with other people like BetaFPV, who also understand the hobby as well, and starting to produce action cameras actually designed for radio control that don't have a battery, don't have a screen, don't have all that heavy stuff that we don't need, that will run off the flight battery that's already in there and will weigh only 30 grams but give you the kind of image that this little thing's kicking out. I do think it's interesting that BetaFPV and Insta360 have created this style of camera for their first collaboration. This is, let's face it, the kind of GoPro style layout that will fit an awful lot of models. But looking inside, the actual electronics here, the lens array and the boards behind it, are relatively small. And although they're situated side by side in this particular form factor, it's easy to see how they could sit behind each other to create an even smaller, more compact camera to give us 4K stabilized video for other types of models too. But if you're looking for a 4K camera that's lightweight, that gives fantastic performance, that also includes the nice things like the ND filter and the UV filter that's actually in the package as well, then this is fab. This is something that I'm going to get a few more of and put it in different places. There's no point in me going and getting something like a GoPro and trying to skeletonize it when I can get this off the shelf and it works this well. Thank you for watching my video and watching right to the very end. If you want to find out what I'm currently working on, you can follow me on social media by searching for Painless360 in the usual places. If you'd like to become part of the inner circle, then you can become a Patreon. Details are in the description and you get lots of additional benefits. Check out the playlist section on the channel too. I organise all of my videos into playlists, and it's called something like Introduction to or for Beginners. All of the content is aimed so that you can start at the very beginning, and it teaches you that subject, starting with simple principles and moving up to teach you everything you need to know.